Today is so important and somebody needs to hear this. If you've ever asked, how could they say they love me and then invalidate, turn on me, and discard me like I was nothing, here's the truth. The narcissist never loved you. And that's not because you weren't lovable. And I know you thought this must have been something that I did, it was my fault. You've been through those feelings, but it's actually physiological and it's chemical. And I'm going to be explaining that to you today. It's probably going to blow your mind. It blew my mind when I really realized this. Even after all the years that I've been doing narcissistic abuse recovery, this discovery is so key. Here's the truth. They didn't love you and they never loved you, not because you weren't lovable, but because they can't love. Not in the way that you know love to be. Today, I'm going to show you the neuroscience, trauma psychology, and spiritual reason, which is so important, why narcissists are incapable of real connection and why it was never about you not being enough. And it's my deepest hope today that this is going to help give you clarity, peace, and power to stop seeking love from the loveless and finally take your light back. And I'm also going to share with you today how you can go even deeper at Spa for Your Soul tomorrow. Plus, I'm going to tell you how to truly heal from narcissistic abuse where it counts most, which is deep in the subconscious, where real change can happen. So anyway, welcome beautiful Thriver to another Thriver TV Live, where we go deep and quantum to release what's been holding you back so that you can rise into your soul truth as well as healthy love. If you don't know me yet, I'm Melanie Tonia Evans, founder of Quantum Freedom Healing and creator of the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, which is known as NARP. If you've tried to heal from narcissistic abuse through therapy, information, or willpower, and you're still stuck in the pain triggers or obsessive thoughts, please know this. It's not your fault. You've just been trying to heal at the wrong level. Most traditional methods focus only on the mind, but narcissistic abuse is not a cognitive injury. It's a trauma to the soul, to the nervous system. It's literally spiritual warfare. And unless you go into the body and heal the subconscious programs that are running 95% of your life, the pain remains and the pattern continues. And that's why my work, Quantum Freedom Healing, exists, because I couldn't find anything that actually healed me either. So if you're ready to heal for real, you're in the right place. And today we're going to explore one of the biggest traumas that keep people stuck after narcissistic abuse, which is the narcissist seemed to really love me. And then not only did they stop, they started disdaining me and despising me. So let me show you the deeper truth today that I really hope is going to help set you free. And it's this. Narcissists aren't wired for love. They're wired for survival. Their entire emotional system is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, which is stress hormones that keep them on high alert in fear, shame, and the need to control. To escape this unbearable internal state, they are constantly chasing dopamine, which is a feel-good hit that gives them temporary relief. So this could be sex, adoration, power, money, or validation. And you've seen this insatiable narcissistic supply need that narcissists need. And they need that superiority, they need that entitlement, they need that recognition. Just say me in the chat if you have experienced this, because of course you have experienced this. Okay, now at the start of the relationship, you were absolutely their dopamine hit. You mirrored their false self. And what does that mean? It meant that the false self, which is paper thin, which is the constructed self that they believe they are, in total contrary to their true feelings about themselves, which are very defective and they feel unlovable and unworthy. But that is the mask that they use. And you fed it. You gave them praise. You idolized them, the version of them that they presented to you. And they got really high off that. It's like a drug. But that's not love. That's addiction. And dopamine wears off. Dopamine is actually relief from how I really feel about myself. It's like a sugar high. It's when you feel depressed and you have sugar and you get a sugar high. Well, dopamine is the same to a narcissist, because how they feel in their natural state is disastrous. So they're forever chasing dopamine. And as soon as you reflected back that anything that required emotional maturity, so that's like a need or a want, or a need for accountability or a boundary, or you wanted authentic connection that wasn't just surface level, the crash happened. Because to the narcissist, you are no longer the hit. And the hit is, give me dopamine so that I don't have to feel how my true self feels, but do not expect anything of me that's going to trigger my defective wounds. So don't give me any constructive criticism. Don't give me anything that requires my growth or my presence, because I'm a performance. I'm not presence, I'm a performance. Because then you become the threat. And that is when you see that side of a narcissist, which is definitely not loving, which was faux loving because it was in dopamine. Let's talk about oxytocin, because that is completely different to dopamine. So oxytocin is the bonding chemical. Narcissists can't do oxytocin. They actually don't do it. If they do it, they may do it with an animal because it's not threatening. It's not going to threaten the construction of the false self. So, but they don't do it with humans, and they can do it with humans from a distance in a situationship or in a relationship that's not close and intimate, where they can hold it at bay and not be threatened. But any relationship that becomes intimate, that becomes closer, then they don't do oxytocin. It's way too threatening. So here's the part that most people don't understand. Narcissists actually don't have natural, organic, healthy levels of oxytocin within them. It just doesn't exist. And we're going to drill down further into this so that you can understand that. So this is a neurochemical, oxytocin is, that's responsible for bonding and empathy and soul connection. Oxytocin is love. It's empathy. It's the capacity to hold space and walk in somebody else's shoes. It's the glue of real intimacy. But to access oxytocin and produce it yourself and be a source of it yourself, to be able to connect at a true, authentic heart level, there is one essential ingredient that is incredibly important, which is a relationship with your true self, with who you really are. Loving and accepting yourself and having made peace with yourself and being comfortable to be your own soul in your own body, regardless of your flaws, which means you love and accept yourself, is the basis of oxytocin. In a spiritual sense, it's the same as seeing yourself as God's source creation sees you, as worthy and valuable and worthy of love and loved unconditionally, is accepting yourself at that level. Narcissists don't have that because they have disowned their inner being and their inner self. They have deemed that it is not workable to be that person or have that connection and make life work. They don't believe in unity consciousness. They don't believe in true soul connection because it feels way too vulnerable and way too scary. So the true self is disowned and the false self is built as the buffer in its to replace it. And that buffer is the ego, which is the false self, which is an imagined construct that is a performance rather than the presence of a true self. Because a narcissist is not connected to their soul, their source, the field, source, God, creation, the field, whatever you want to call that, higher power, which actually is our higher self in unity consciousness, they're completely disconnected from the light. So they're not in authenticity, because authenticity is of the light. It's the truth. They're not being the truth. They're not in an authentic essence. So they have to use other people for one of two things. It's either as a mirror, because I can't produce that energy for myself. I need you to grant it to me. But it is like, and that's what happened in the initial stages where they put on the performance that looked believable, and we started reflecting back to them the appreciation of that and the love of that. And that gave them a hit. But if you were to imagine a black hole in space that's sucking celestial objects into it, it's a black hole and it's sucking stars and light and into it, and they all go into darkness, and there's still darkness because there's no source of self. So whatever you're reflecting back to a narcissist isn't building them up and giving them a solid sense of oxytocin or self. It's going nowhere, into nothing. It's a bucket with holes in it. So this person is still not being a source of an authentic essence of a self. So they use you as a mirror to, it's exactly the myth of vampires that we had that myth of vampires, where vampires needed to feast on humans to get life force because they were the living dead. It's exactly the same thing. So somebody said, what about their children? Okay, narcissists with their children can actually have oxytocin because they're keeping it in a situationship, and their children are trained not to actually hit a vulnerability. And their children are trained to not expect too much. So they're playing roles. And if the child does go for accountability from a narcissistic person, well, then they're going to see the defenses like everybody else does. But yeah, and it depends on the narcissist. We could go further. That's kind of a conversation for another time, but it depends on the narcissist as well. Okay, so the truth about narcissistic people is they're using you as a mirror, but they're also using you as a dumping ground for their unhealed wounds, because the consciousness of a narcissist is trapped at a very regressive age. It's a child in an adult's body, acting very, very childish when confronted with boundaries or accountability. So what happens, and that's just too painful, it's too shameful, and it cracks the concept of the false self, which has to be beyond reproach and perfect, and it's paper thin. So that's why you get a narcissistic rage, defense, or reaction when you're looking for accountability and presence to show up into a relationship and work on themselves or work on the relationship. Okay, so the dumping ground is their unhealed wounds, and because they're childish and their age regressed, they're not emotionally mature or available at all. In their own skewered, very limited access to consciousness in those moments, you're to blame because you are the reason I am feeling bad. It's very black and white. And therefore, you're the problem. And that's the only way they see it. So you are a dumping ground. And I talked about transference, narcissistic transference a couple of weeks ago, where you actually end up wearing their traumas and their wounds. And we went into that discussion, and they literally believe that it's you because they don't have the consciousness. They don't also have This self reflection, they refuse to self reflect and work on themselves. So they're never going to get out of that level of consciousness. So to a narcissist, you are literally an object instead. You are somebody to regulate narcissistic supply or get their needs or wants fulfilled, and to reflect back to them a self that their natural dead true self can't feel. And then if you mess that up, or if that's not happening in the way that it's needed to, well, then you're going to hit a narcissistic injury and you're going to end up being the dumping ground. So a narcissist, their love is completely conditional. And conditional is based on dopamine, because you're only safe as long as you're feeding their false self, which is granting them dopamine. Okay? But if you challenge the false self, you become the enemy because you're not supplying dopamine. Okay? True love isn't built on dopamine. And true love, of course, narcissists, and also when we're codependent and we haven't done the work on ourselves, we may believe that the honeymoon period is true love, but it's actually dopamine. And it's not until further down the track of real life, deeper conversations, intimacy, exposure and vulnerability, that you have an understanding of whether you or not, you've got a bond that is actually to do with oxytocin. Let me know if I'm making sense in the chat. Tell me, does this make sense? Because this is such a bigger understanding when we understand that. So let's again have a look at oxytocin and what it means. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical that comes from empathy, safety, and soul connection. Okay, so you're not going to get that from a narcissist because they actually don't have an ability to grant you that. They actually don't. It's not about desire, it's about capacity. They literally don't have the capacity. So, oxytocin allows us to see the other person as real. Oxytocin allows us to walk in other people's shoes. So it allows us to be able to lean into somebody's experience and to want to understand it and to want to validate it and to want to work with it in the understanding of unity consciousness, that when I'm in partnership with other people, their experience becomes my experience because I'm in relationship with them. But narcissists, because they're not in oxytocin and not in unity consciousness, it's a disorder that is built in separation consciousness. That I am me separate from you. I am not going to allow that enmeshment because it's way too vulnerable and threatening to my false self. You may see who I really am. And for me to have power and control over you where I can regulate you, I need to be separated from you and see myself separate from you. And I need to keep you over there. So therefore, I am not involved in oxytocin. I can pretend it. I can have moments where it looks like that, but if it starts threatening me, I'm going to push you back and I'm going to get it back into separation consciousness. I need that superiority. I need that edge through disdain or sarcasm or criticism or deflection or deactivation to be able to not bond with you properly. And it means I don't have empathy. I can't walk in your shoes. I'm not going to understand your experience. That's way too threatening for me to take on your experience because that's going to bond us, and it means I'm going to have empathy for you. So this is where they don't do unconditional love. Now, all love should have conditions and boundaries and needs and wants, but they don't even go towards, I want to understand your experience so that we can heal our experience together. Narcissists don't have access to oxytocin. Yes, or lies. Exactly. Lies, deflection, lies, gaslighting. Gaslighting is a big, big way to create separation and push you back. Okay, and remain control over the relationship. So they don't have access to oxytocin because they're not connected to their true self and they're not connected to source. And that is the biggest spiritual component, which is simply energetic and it's very, very quantum. that if we don't have a relationship with a higher part of ourselves, well, then we're really not efforting to bring that in more and to release the parts of ourselves that aren't serving us, that are sabotaging us, or they're keeping us stuck in the skirmishes, the patterns, and the programs that aren't serving our relationship to ourselves, to life, and to others. Narcissists never want to do that. They just want to be superior and think that they have to overcome and control everything. And of course, get regular narcissistic injuries when that doesn't work out for them. And narcissists literally believe that the rest of the world is doing exactly the same thing. They actually believe that that's how humans operate because they see it through the only lens that they know, which is their own skewered, limited lens, which is another problem with lack of oxytocin, that you don't have heart open to be able to expand and evolve and grow and heal yourself into higher dimensional living, which means being able to manifest and create and have an incredible life and be incredibly healthy. So what happens with the narcissist is they're not taking any radical personal responsibility to say that I am the generative source of my own experience, and to heal my life, I heal myself, which is what growth is all about. Rather, everything is a threat to the ego, it's a criticism, and it creates a reaction and a defense and a separation consciousness, which pushes people out of their own oxytocin into survival and reaction. It's all about control and retaining of the false self. So what happens is the narcissist, in their childish, immature, egoic trap, they hold you responsible for the relief from themselves. And when you don't provide the narcissist the relief from their true self, that is forever bubbling up with the feelings of I'm defective, I'm unworthy of love, there's something horribly wrong with me, which is what a narcissist feels as their natural self every moment of every day, without the egoic superior story and getting the supply from the outside world, or keeping themselves busy, or numbing out with addictions, and using you as either the person that's reflecting back their magnificence, or having superior control over you through your pain, which feeds their ego. That is the plight of the narcissist. And they are holding you responsible, if you're a close intimate, as to either being the target to control to make them feel better about themselves, or they're using you to reflect back to you the acclaim and the admiration that's feeding the false self. So you're the object for regulation of dopamine. And be very, very clear, they get dopamine when you are distressed and traumatized. It gives them a rush of dopamine. It gives them a hit of power and significance and control. It feeds the false self. So just, addicts are going after dopamine, and narcissists are ridiculous addicts. That's the truth. So the narcissist in their mind believes you're the problem, gaslights you into believing that you're the problem, will attack you as the problem, will tell everybody else you're the problem, and of course can be very, very good at the performance, because remember, presence is authenticity, it's honesty, okay? They're performers, they're people pleasers. So very, very good at giving the outside world the complete belief that I am the good person and this person isn't, because they're broken, and you're broken because you have come out of your natural state of authenticity and oxytocin, pulled into this terrible pit of transference of the narcissist wounds being spilled all over you. So this isn't love. This isn't love at all. Okay. Am I talking to you? Are you relating to this? Let me know in the chat if this is making sense to you, because I really want you to understand that this isn't personal. It feels deeply personal when you're in it. It's actually chemical. It's actually physiological. And the expression that I love to say a lot is, you cannot make a cat lay an egg. You cannot make a narcissist bond authentically with you. It doesn't matter how much love you give them. It doesn't matter how many chances. It doesn't matter how much slack you cut them. It doesn't matter how you try to help them. It doesn't matter how much you see their potential. You cannot get a narcissist to start wanting and creating and generating oxytocin. That could only ever happen through an ego death, putting down the false self, and actually wanting to do the inner work to connect back to self and connect back to a higher self and source. And if you ever notice with narcissistic people, even spiritual narcissistic people, they do not want to become at one with source. They still, even when they talk about a higher power, they either use it as a power to reprimand others with, or they actually, and in their own life, they will not surrender into their higher self. They are worshipping the ego. And you can tell in language and the way that they talk about their spirituality, they are worshipping the ego, and they're doing all of their spirituality through their head and not in a surrender in their body, inviting the light in. They don't want the light because then the ego dissolves, and they don't want that. Let me know if you've noticed that, because this is a spiritual malady. The problem is spiritual more than anything. So no information or counseling is going to fix this issue. This is a spiritual issue that requires healing at a soul level, and narcissists will not put down the false self and surrender into that healing. If they would, they're not a narcissist. They might have narcissistic tendencies, but they're not a narcissist. So a true narcissist will not do that. And you can never convince them to do that. You can never ask them to do that. You can only ever look after yourself and their life journey. If they were ever to receive death of a narcissistic injury that is big enough, that's the only time they would ever do it. It's none of your business, because our business is our oxytocin, our ascension, and our moving forward into relationships that are healthy and well. So the biggest message that I wanted to give you today is this wasn't about you. They didn't invalidate, disdain, gaslight, confuse you and discard you and treat you like you were worthless and you didn't matter and they didn't love you. That didn't happen to you because you weren't lovable. I really want you to understand that. They abandoned and rejected you emotionally and figuratively because they couldn't love. You were a reflection. You were a supply. You were a relief. And when that ran out, inevitably it was always going to. Whatever is false will never ever stand the test of time. There is nothing you could have done or could have not done to change this. And even if you could have, would you have ever wanted to be with somebody who never even loved you anyway, no matter how much they performed? It wasn't real. Not because you're not real, because they cannot be real. Okay? And of course it was going to run out, because a person who is not real, who doesn't have a true connection to themselves, cannot have empathy. They can pretend it. It can be part of a people-pleasing thing, but it's not genuine. And it's definitely not genuine when the false self is threatened in any shape or form. So what happens is, of course, it was going to run out, because a person who is self-absorbed, self-centered, who doesn't want unity consciousness, makes their feelings and emotions all about themselves. So as soon as they're triggered, they have no capacity to deal with or own their own feelings. They make it all about they always blame and justify and make excuses. It's somebody or something else caused this, rather than, oh, this is going on, I need to look at this. That's self-reflection, that's growth. They don't do that. So you got blamed. So they could have been having a weird day or a bad day. It's your fault. You could have said something or looked at them in the wrong way, and it's your fault. You could have brought to attention, of course, a selfish behavior or something that they've done that didn't read the room, that didn't have consideration, that was actually entitled, superior, or nasty, because they're going to do it, that you brought up and you said, hang on a minute, this is what I would prefer, this is how I'm feeling, these are my boundaries, or the lack of connection, because the performance becomes so obvious that you're realizing that they are performance and not presence. There's no real person there, and you're trying to get to the real person, and that is going to trigger them. So it was always going to run out your supply of dopamine to them. So then it switches to them getting dopamine from hurting you and attacking you and having control over you and feeling superior. So eventually it gets to a point where either it gets too tumultuous that they can't keep the fires burning. It gets to the point where you wake up enough where you've had enough and they realize that you totally get it and you understand what the truth really is when the game's over. Or, better supply comes along. Usually because you're breaking, you're disheveled, you're barely functioning. And I'm just going to get real with you. This is so cruel and so horrible, but you're no longer the shiny toy that they get to show off and say, well, this is why I'm so awesome. And that's when you get replaced. And then they go on and the same thing continues over and over again because they don't have the capacity to bond and truly love. Okay? So, but you know better. You know better. And I hope you know better. You know that love without oxytocin isn't love. And I love this comment in the chat. So many people are throwing around the term narcissist right now, but living with somebody who has NPD is very different. My daughter, who is now close to the end, says I'm the narcissist. Yeah, and look, absolutely, it gets thrown around a lot. We are talking about there are some very, very real clues about if you're dealing with somebody with a narcissist. They gaslight, they lie. They don't take any personal accountability. There's always an excuse. It's always somebody else's fault. Okay? They can be malicious. They can be cruel. When you're broken down and you're crying and you're distressed, they keep going. They still don't have empathy. This is decidedly narcissistic. They have double lives behind your back. They lie. They do things behind your back that if you found out about, you'd be devastated. And if you do find out, well, then you get blamed. That's narcissistic. Okay? Point blank. So, love without oxytocin isn't love. And there may be people that are not necessarily narcissistic who are just very guarded and very scared and, very dismissive or whatever it is in their attachment style who need to do the inner work to be able to connect to oxytocin, which is authenticity, which is showing up in vulnerability and honesty and asking for what you need and being able to have the difficult conversations and have empathy and want to hear from your partner what they need from you so that you can meet them better. That's oxytocin, intimacy. Now we know, I hope you're starting to understand that chasing oxytocin, which is love and approval and empathy and connection from somebody who can't connect, is soul suicide. Of course you're going to think there's something wrong with you because they're going to put all the blame on you. So it's really important that we stop personalizing their incapacity to produce and connect to oxytocin. So you need to stop making their inability to love you about your worth or your value or your not enoughness, because it's not true. It wasn't about you. It was always about their disconnection from their own soul. So our job as thrivers and in our healing and in our deep healing is to stop seeking love from somebody who isn't capable of it. And it can start with here. We start to see things clearly, but then we've got the work, we've got the healing to do. And stop trying to extract connection from a person who is defending against it, who doesn't want it, who blames you for it, and has no desire to self-reflect and work on themselves and work towards a wholeness within and a wholeness without with you. So you can stop bending, shrinking and overgiving in the hope that one day that they're going to finally wake up and see you You realize that no matter how much you try to prove your love, it's not going to fill a void that they refuse to face within themselves. And in this powerful moment, something really miraculous happens. You start coming home to yourself. Can you feel that? Let me know in the chat if you can feel that. Let me know if what I'm saying is having a transmission that's helping you cellularly to remember this truth. Let me know in the chat. Okay, so Georgia is saying, what if they know you know, but still prefer to stay with you? Because you're allowing it, Georgia. You're saying this is the level of love that I'm going to accept. And what we accept is what we get. And of course that suits the narcissist because they get to get what they want, as well as you feeling fragmented, which also feeds their dopamine. Why would they leave until you say enough and mean it? Why do they tell everyone that they love you even if you have broken away? Because it makes them look like the victim. It makes them look like poor them, and you hurt them so much, and they're a really loving, good person. And a lot of narcissists do that. They will tell everybody they love you. They will tell all sorts of things. So it's street angel, home devil. They appear to others as a really great person, and to you, it's completely different. It's very covert narcissism. It's very common. Even overts do it, but coverts are masters at it. People please a great person. Yeah. And it's interesting with covert narcissists because the attention that they're not giving you at home, you get out in public and all of a sudden they're putting all this attention, you know, physically, energetically into you in front of other people because they want people to think they're a great person and a great partner. Let me know in the chat if you've experienced that. Okay. So, real healing has got to begin inside of ourselves. Okay? Not in their apology. You're not going to get one anyway. And if you do, it's only to get their own way. It's never genuine. I'm going to do a whole talk on what is a genuine apology and the difference between narcissistic apologies and apologies from people who actually can bond with you and care about you because they have the capacity to love. And it's great for all of us to understand what a true apology is. Okay, so not in their apology, not in their validation, not in the fantasy of who you wanted them to be, because it is a fantasy. And they are a fantasy. Their whole world is a fantasy. The way they think is a fantasy. The way that they construct life in their brain is a fantasy because they're a false self. And we did it too. We bought the fantasy. We bought the lie. We believed they were how we operate, how we think, how we feel. They don't at all. So this is a return, a grand return to your inner sanctuary, your wholeness, your innocence, your divine truth. And the great thing about narcissistic abuse recovery is it is so painful and traumatic and so fragmenting that we either rise or we sink. We either integrate or we disintegrate. We either dissolve or we evolve. And if we take the higher path and we do the quantum work, which I love because it's the only work that works as far as I'm concerned, then what happens is we get to connect with Source, our true higher self, in a way that we never have. We get to connect and heal with our inner being in a way that we never have. And we get to ignite the oxytocin that lives inside our own soul naturally without the fragmenting, tormenting, traumatizing beliefs, traumas, and systems and patterns that we've taken on throughout our life. We get to purge all of them and go free. And we start sourcing the love organically through life force, through the field, through our higher self, through our own soul that we thought we had to earn. We start feeling the warmth of our own arms wrapping around ourselves, our soul, our inner child. We get worth and we get value and we stand for it. Not in defenses and anger, in love and presence and power and grace. We get to breathe into ourselves and we begin to trust our intuition. and know that source and our higher self and our soul has our back. We start tapping into the natural love chemicals that come from presence, stillness, and alignment, not from chaos and survival and being connected to that. Once that's gone out of your life and you come home, you're like, what was I thinking? You begin a journey of replacing false love with true connection, not based on adrenaline or fear, but on safety, clarity, wholeness, authenticity, honesty, vulnerability. And that's the path home, where love no longer feels like anxiety, confusion, or walking on eggshells, where you no longer chase or tolerate breadcrumbs. These aren't even breadcrumbs, it's faux bread, because they can't love. Where your nervous system starts to relax and your heart opens, not in desperation, but in divinely guided truth. And you realize the love that you were seeking was never truly out there. It was always waiting for you within. So you might think, well, I'm going to have to go single. But if you are in love relationship with the divine, you are so full that true love cannot not meet you. That's actually how you manifest love, by being it. How does that land in your body? It's so true. And here's what I want you to know. This was never a reflection of your worth, what you went through in that relationship or what you might still be going through. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their worth. You are not too broken, too much, or unlovable. You were simply trying to receive real love from somebody who couldn't do it. And of course you were triggered, and of course you were emotional, and of course you were hurt. Why wouldn't you be? And of course you felt sensitive. Why wouldn't you be? And you're allowed to feel those feelings because they are very real. Very real. And now the tide is turning. You are awakening to your value, your beauty, to the deep, steady presence of real love that was within you all along. You get to come home to yourself. And in doing that, you will be able to call in everything that is true, aligned, and real. You will start to know you're safe. You will start to know you're healing, and you will be becoming whole. Let's do, and that's the path. There is no other. Let's do some power intentions, some statements together to start getting this moving through your body and to start shifting you right here, right now, today. How would that feel? Do you want to do that? Because I'd love to grant you that. And somebody's saying that I'm damaged from 30 years of marriage. So many of us, Helen, were damaged beyond description through our narcissistic relationships. That's the quantum inner work. I can't recommend the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program. Fully money back guaranteed. You've got nothing to risk. An incredible community to hold you. I cannot recommend it enough, and it costs less than 3 therapy sessions. It has freed people into thriving after narcissistic abuse where nothing else worked. Check out the link in the description. Okay? I promise you, we've had people 40 or 50 years broken beyond measure who are now thriving, having their most amazing lives. Quantumly, we heal it. We don't do it cognitively. Quantumly is about 50 times faster and, in my humble opinion, 50 times more effective. You'll see why. So let's do this invocation together. Let's do it. All right, I want you to open and breathe and repeat after me and say this out loud. And what you might want to do is put a hand on your heart and a hand on your womb space if you're a woman, or your hand on your belly if you're a man. And just open up your chest. Just open up this space here. Take your attention softly inside of yourself. Relax all of your muscles and repeat after me. I no longer seek love from the unavailable. I break all bonds to false light. and trauma-fueled relationships. I return to the oxytocin of source, soul, and self-love. I am now free to receive, give, and be love in its purest form. And let that just soak into the cells of your body. Don't try to think about it, just let it soak in. Breathe it in. And let me know how that feels in the chat. Let me know how that feels. It might bring stuff up that's going to need clearing. It might feel soothing. How does it feel? Give me some love. Give me some love hearts. And if this is resonating with you, and we all know, if you know people that are stuck in that trauma of they don't love me, they don't care about me, why couldn't they love me? Please share this video with them, because this is such a key understanding that can change so much. Share this video with people who you know are battling, or share this video with narcissistic abuse communities that maybe haven't had access to quantum healing. Okay? It feels soothing, but still a long way to go. This is the beginning of the journey, Georgia. It's the beginning of the journey. Okay? But there is a journey, and there is a way out of this dark tunnel into the light more directly and faster than you could have ever imagined. But we have to want to take it. Okay. So what you just declared is a shift, and it already begins to rewire your field, your intention, and your capacity to start healing. And know that you're worth it, and start feeling hope that there is a way out of this. Because you're not just saying words, you're claiming a new reality. And this is the beginning, and you can take it deeper. Because affirmations are something, and they're good, but there's cellular quantum healing that clears what's been stuck from our adulthood, from our childhood, back through our epigenetic patterns that we've acquired from our families, and even beyond that, back into past lives. That's what quantum healing does. It literally shifts our field, our being, our cellular beliefs, programs, and structures onto a higher timeline to give us access to trajectories that not just maybe we couldn't access, but maybe the whole pattern and the program in our family couldn't access, and also changes the pattern and the program for our future generations as well. Now, I just want to tell you quickly, the link is above. It's actually MelanieToniaEvans.com Ascension. I'm just going to drop it here in the chat as well, because tomorrow we have Soul for Your Spa, and this is taking this even deeper to disconnection from darkness and infiltration by narcissistic systems and people. So I'm just going to put the link in here as well. Yeah, there it is. I've just dropped it in the chat. The link is also above. I really highly recommend that you come into this, because what we're going to be doing in a 3-hour session tomorrow, and it's really low cost, high impact, is you're going to clear trauma loops that keep attracting false love. It's going to help reconnect you to real love, source, self, and soul alignment. And it can activate your healing and ascension timeline where you start moving into the space of quantum healing, which is life changing and soul changing. And please know that if you can't make the live event tomorrow, it's going to be tomorrow morning my time, which is going to be afternoon for the States, evening for Europe and the UK. But if you can't make it live, by signing up, you'll get the email for the replay. So you are not going to miss a thing. So, Dee's saying she can't wait. I know our Shifts Happen crew and community have been really hanging out for this one. It's actually, if you haven't been to a spa for your soul, people love it in the community. They're amazing events. Humbly, I say that. People get a lot out of them. We get feedback and testimonies about them all the time, and people write in and they're like, when's your next soul spa? When's your next soul spa? They're a big production. I can only put them on every couple or a few months, but it's tomorrow. So it's going to help you a lot. It's going to give you a lot of peace and a lot of healing, especially from the whole narcissistic abuse trauma. Oh gosh, if you're struggling to recover or you're still in it, it's going to give you a big leg up, a big boost in your healing. Okay, so thank you for being with me today. I really believe that this episode is a truth bomb. I really believe that it's a relief to understand that it's literally a physical, chemical, physiological incapacity for narcissists to love you. It's not personal. It just is how it is. So what I want you to do, if this has really resonated with you and you get it, write in the comment, I know the truth now. I know the truth now. Write it, because I really want to see if I've got through to you and if this resonated with you. Let me know in the comments. Okay. If you understand now the difference between dopamine and oxytocin, and that narcissists can't access and can't connect with oxytocin, that they're dopamine addicts, write in the comment, I know the truth now. And please share this with somebody who needs it. Please remember, dear Thrivers, amazing community, you are not unlovable. They were unavailable. And you can be free, and now you're working towards being free. So let's rise together, thrive on. So come join me tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow in Spa for Your Soul. And as you know, we've shared with some people, if you're ready to heal the root of this and be supported by an incredible community and tens of thousands of people who've walked this journey before you, check out NARP, which is the signature program that healed me to thriving after narcissistic abuse, and tens of thousands of people from over 150 different countries in the last 20 years. Check out the link in the description. I love you, everybody. You're doing an amazing job. Please, sending healing to your heart, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Lots of love. Bye-bye.